Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about basically, I'm going to ask this question that what have we learned from the India Pakistan war about the commitments by global powers like the United States and China to the region of South Asia? Who is more committed to having a military as, as well as hegemonic influence in South Asia? And we also want to ask this question today is is America really committed to the Indo-Pacific strategy, which was first articulated by Donald Trump's administration in his first term in office from 2016 to 2020? So these are some of the questions that I want to ask in this, is to who is more committed to regional politics and geopolitics, China or the United States? And going forward, what will be the roles of these two superpowers going forward? Rohit Narang, welcome. Rohit is one of the latest, in fact, the latest member of Conversations. Thank you for becoming a member, Rohit, and also thank you for joining so early on in this. So basically, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make 5 points about the geopolitics and the role of China, and the United States uh, during the Indo-Pakistan war, this four-day war. I think it needs a name. Operation Sindoor is just one-sided. I think we'll have to find and give this a name. Maybe we should call it the Pahalgam War. Anyway, this four-day war, we will talk about what role these countries played and what does it say about their grand strategy and their overall policy towards the region, which is South Asia, and also their commitments to their various partners in the region. So the question, first observation that I want to make is that clearly during this conflict, Pakistan had two or three friends, which was China, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. While Turkey and Azerbaijan played a very small role, China demonstrated its commitment to Pakistan's security, Pakistan's military, and also both, not just in terms of providing weapons, but providing intelligence and being with Pakistan, literally hand holding Pakistan through the 4 days of conflict, providing intelligence. If you go to Business Today magazine of India, they have a very good, shall we say, a slideshow in which they talk about how Chinese satellites provided real time intelligence to Pakistan during the conflict. So China has shown that it is committed to Pakistan in a very significant way. Whereas India's partners, whether you talk about it, whether it is the United States or whether it is Japan in the Quad, or Australia, or France, or United Arab Emirates, no one were as committed to India's security, even Israel or Russia, to India's security and its territorial integrity, as China was committed to the security and territorial integrity. In fact, Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, said it very clearly that China was Pakistan's friend. So the first observation that I want to make is that China has proven to be the friend of its ally, or you could call it your client state in the region, Pakistan, much, much more than the United States has proven to be a strategic partner of India. If you notice, Indian commentators, Indian analysts, hi Nick Sodhi, good morning to you too. So as you know, many Indian commentators and writers say that we don't trust the United States. It's not a, nobody trusts anybody in international affairs. Either you have shared interest or you don't have shared interest. And when you have shared interests, you act on it together. So, for example, if you and I are being attacked by bandits, we may choose to run together or we may choose to fight together. You don't have to trust me or not. We are in it together. So it's like that. International relations, by and large, foreign policies of countries are shaped by their shared interests. And therefore, it's not a matter of trusting people, but it is a matter of, in the sense establishing that they have common interests and therefore should work together to pursue those common interests. So, from that principle, the observation that we will draw is that Pakistan and China have far more shared interest in South Asia than India and the United States. Now, that's a sobering thought because what it shows is that both China and Pakistan are committed to be basically rivals or enemies of India, whereas the United States is not as committed to either being Pakistan's enemy or even being China's enemy. So that is my first observation that I want to make, is that China has proven to be a far more reliable partner for Pakistan than the United States or Japan or Australia. The entire Quad or even United Arab Emirates have proven to be India's strategic partner. So that's the first question that I want to show. The second uh, point that I want to make about this observation is that I'm fully persuaded and I'm convinced that China has used this war as a laboratory. It has used it as a laboratory to test its own weapons and also to test basically uh, India's capabilities. India's defense capabilities, India's offensive capabilities. And so they have been collecting a lot of intelligence. It is very clear that several of China's, it's called ISR, uh, interspace intelligence, which is space-based intelligence and reconnaissance. So their ISR satellites were zoomed in on India for this duration, and so they were collecting data about India's military movements. They were sharing it real time with Pakistan, but they were treating this entire battle as a laboratory. Uh, so there are a lot of people in India who are denying that China's technology was successful or not. So I just want to show you something as to how the global discourse on this is so different from the Indian discourse. And that is to me very fascinating. So, Ismail, welcome. I'm going to share something. Just type there if you are able to see this particular PowerPoint slide, because last time people were complaining that they could not see what I was sharing. What I basically did was I just did a Google search, and I'm showing you the top 10 stories that are popping up when you ask a question about China's technological performance in this military action, and see what stories the international community is saying and what stories. Hi, Baldev. So let me show you that slide. Okay. So I'm sharing this slide. Uh, so please tell me if you are able to see. These are the first 10 articles that popped up when I searched for uh, basically use of Chinese weapons in the Indo-Pakistan war that just took place. So if you'll see these articles, you can see very clearly. Uh, Let me just see if it is. Yes, at least on my side, I can say that I can see this. Oh, okay, Bharat Saini, thank you very much for your confirmation. It is, yes, we can see the slide. So basically, I just wanted to point out. Let me go to the slide so I can read it. It's too tiny here. Right. So these are the top 10 pop up. The first one is defense news. Pakistan wields Chinese weapons against India, and analysts take notes. So this war was not only a source of intelligence for China, but it was also for the rest of the world, because they got a chance to see how China's new technology, new weapons, indigenous technologies like the JC-10 and the PL-15, how will they perform against Western technology, especially Rafale and other Western weaponry that India was using. So the second article is by Reuters, exclusive. Pakistan's Chinese-made jets brought down 2 Indian fighter aircraft. U.S. officials say Chinese weapons pass combat test in India, Pakistan. This is the French main media source, France 24. They also have a very good YouTube channel in English. So Chinese weapons pass. This is the French point of view. Reuters is more or less English, U.S. point of view because it's quoting U.S. officials. Then you have Bloomberg, which is U.S. business. Chinese weapons gain credibility after Pakistan-India conflict. And this is okay. We can even though the Hong Kong-based newspaper South China Morning Post is more or less independent, you could still say it's Chinese. Pakistan's use of J-10 jets against India, a wake-up call for Taiwan. So then one, two, three, four, five. The sixth story is from Times of India, which says the exact opposite. Operation Sindoor exposed pattern of failures, underperformance by Chinese weapons, etc. So this is the article, the sixth one, underperformance by Chinese weapon systems. So this is the sixth article from the Indian point of view. And then again, you have Business Insider. China is using Pakistan to test. Pakistan's use of so the Guardian, the Japan Times, and then again the Economic Times, which is India's, how China will feel the heat of India-Pakistan conflict. So if you look at it, 80% of the media appears to be the global media, except Indian sources. Everybody else seems to be making the point that the Chinese technology did reasonably well in the war. Uh, yes, Pakistan did not perform well at all defensively. India could have destroyed their entire bases. India was driving with the handbrake on. It was very clear India was exercising a lot of restraint in the first attack as well as the third wave of attacks, which were the two most impactful. The first one hit 9 terrorist targets, and the third one hit 6 air bases in Pakistan. But nevertheless, there is China's weaponry has gone up, so it's going to be selling a lot more weapons internationally, etc. So that's my second point, is that China has demonstrated that it is a force to reckon with, especially against its, shall we say, uh, fourth most important enemy. China sees the US, Japan, Taiwan, and India as its geopolitical rivals. The third point that I want to make is about the United States role, which was, like I said, not only did it show that it's not very uh, committed, there was you could argue that there was a slight pro Pakistani bias in the entire Western response to the whole conflict. So every country, whether it was France, whether it was Great Britain, whether it was the European Union itself, which are seeking free trade agreements with India, partnerships with India, defense partnerships, along with the United States, did not stand as firmly with India as China did with Pakistan. So the question really is twofold. I mean, it raises twofold. Are they not worried about China? Do they not want to contain China's growing influence in South Asia? Do they not want to support India so that it can balance China? Or they're not worried about the rise of China? Or they do not think of India as a reliable partner against China? So these are some very serious questions that Indian foreign policy makers, as well as uh, other players in the region, will be thinking. In fact, China must be very, very happy not just with the performance of its weaponry in the conflict, but also the lack of performance of the Quad and the United States. In fact, now people are arguing that uh, India was pressured to accept the ceasefire by the United States because it threatened India with trade, with reducing trade or stopping trade, to stop India from continuing its attacks on Pakistan, and that Pakistan was actually pleading with the United States to intervene. So that's one important narrative, which is primarily coming from India, but increasingly Western media is also reporting on it, and some Western policy experts are also trying to say that America did a huge favor to Pakistan by forcing a ceasefire within 4 days. uh, r- so that is another question which is troubling and should be troubling to the Indian policymakers. Then the fourth question that is important that I think we need to ask is this: is is the Indo-Pacific strategy dead? Uh, is America under Donald Trump in his second term not going to pursue the Indo-Pacific strategy the same way that he pursued in his first term, and the way Joe Biden committed to it in the second term? It was Joe Biden who, in 2021, elevated the Quad to the level of heads of state. During the Trump's first term, there was no heads of states meetings at the Quad level. And so there was several Quad level meetings at the heads of state. One was, I think, in Japan, one was in India, and then one was in basically in Joe Biden's house here in Delaware. That was the last heads of state Quad meeting. The next one is scheduled in September in India, when we'll see what happens then. So the question now it becomes, we need to ask is the United States still pursuing an Indo-Pacific strategy in which it wants to basically contain China's growing influence in South Asia? Uh, my next observation is this: that I think China is committed to limit India, is committed to a kind of aggressive foreign policy towards India. So while it may want to continue to trade with India and wants to export, like India US trade is, I think this year going to be uh, slightly more than US India trade. So China might once again go from being the second biggest trading partner of India to perhaps the biggest trading partner. The data should be out in another week or two. Already we are seeing that Indian economy has done reasonably well in India's fourth quarter, which is from January to March. We will actually get confirmed data that Indian economy has grown by 6.8 or 6.9% uh, uh, in this last quarter, which is India's financial year runs from April to March. So in that sense, we will get the data of Chinese trade with India then, probably in a week or two. So China has shown that it is an enemy of India, no matter what Indians think in terms of trade and whether they have normalized relations across the border, if the Galwan issue has been resolved. I don't know. The commitment that China has shown to Pakistan is also a commitment against India, uh, and uh, and and that should be very, very troubling to India. That this this hope that India and China would improve their relationship, normalize their relationship, that is, I think this particular war in Pahalgam should put an end to it. It is like saying that the war was between India and China, with Pakistan essentially acting as a proxy. So if India is Israel and China is Iran, then Pakistan is Hezbollah, something like that. So Pakistan is a Chinese proxy, and China has used it to gain vital military intelligence about India's military capabilities in this war. And so now that information and that data will go. Like I said, India also has learned a lot about Chinese capabilities. One of the bonanzas that India got, a lottery, was that one PL-15 fell near Hoshiarpur, intact, nearly intact. So I guess India will have access to Chinese air-to-air missile technology. I hope that the Indian engineers should be able to reverse engineer that missile and then improve on it and have a much better air-to-air missile than PL-15. So that was my fourth observation about this war. And here's my fifth and final observation. And of course, I want to remind people that Conversations is now accepting super thanks and super chats. And I also want to let you know that for those of you who are watching from India with a VPN and prefer that I speak to them in Hindi, I will do a live Hindi show at around 10 p.m. US time. and that will be 7:30 a.m. India time. Anyway, so my fifth and final observation for today, before I address your questions, is this: India is sending out a delegation of 7 delegations to various regions in the world. I talked about it extensively yesterday, that the battlefield has shifted into the diplomatic arena, and India has announced a large group of people led by Shashi Tharoor, who's coming to the United States. There are various teams. Asaduddin Owaisi of Hyderabad is also part of it, and some of the people in there are very, very lone. Syed Akbaruddin, another Hyderabadi, is part of the team that is going to North Africa, especially to Egypt. So India is sending 7 groups of people out there to make its to basically present India's point of view with regards to Pahalgam, with regards to Operation Sindoor, and brief them on what really happened, so that they don't have to just rely on Western media reports, and they can also get uh, India's point of view from them. But what is also interesting is that India feels the need to send a delegation to make what it really means is that in the past few years that we saw such hectic uh, foreign policy engagements by both Prime Minister Modi and Dr. Jaishankar. Dr. Jaishankar probably came to the United States more often than he's gone to his hometown, Chennai. So I just go back and see in the last 3 years, I think he's come more often to Washington, D.C. than he's gone to Chennai. And Narendra Modi has no time to go to Manipur. He hasn't even gone to Pahalgam, but he's been to Bahrain so many times. He's been to the US so many times. He's been to Japan, Singapore, Indonesia. So all of these countries, these people have visited frequently. And now, suddenly, after this moment of crisis, the Indian government feels that these countries need to be informed about the Indian point of view. So, what were these people doing in all these visits while they were engaging the foreign ministers and prime ministers and heads of state? So, plus, can Shashi Tharoor achieve what Dr. Jaishankar and Narendra Modi could not achieve? Conveying India, persuading the West about India's uh, righteous position with regards to counterterrorism, cross-border terrorism, and explain India's military actions. That is the question that India itself has realized, that one thing that has come out from this war is that India's diplomacy so far was not sufficient to convince the rest of the world about India's righteous position with regards to cross-border terrorism. So now they have to launch another special campaign to try and explain to the world. And so, if you notice, I think the Modi government is really, really, I think, worried that its narrative has failed. So it's not only sending a bunch of people abroad, but it's also starting a similar campaign at home called Tiranga Yatra, basically. So I think that Indian government is feeling the pressure to step up its narrative, because the war exposed that India's narrative was not as effective as they might have thought. So I'm going to stop with this commentary, and now I will look at your questions and be happy to take your questions. And for those of you who attended the members meeting last week, you should have realized that I am taking some of your advice. So I'm doing my 15-20 minute presentation uh, first, and then I'm looking and not getting distracted by questions right away. So how come all the air bases that were hit got hit in spite of Chinese? This is Rohit. Rohit, I think the Chinese defense technology is not very good. Maybe they did not use their best defenses. India did hit all the 6 air bases. There are 2 good articles, one in the Washington Post and I think in the New York Times, which have photographs, satellite photographs of before April 22nd and after May 9th. after May 10th. So you can see the damage that India has caused to most of these airfields, especially the airfields in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. I mean, if Pakistan can't defend its air bases in Islamabad and Rawalpindi, then what can it defend? So one thing that is very clear, whether it's Chinese technology or Pakistani technology, the defensive technology did not work at all. In fact, it should tell us that Pakistan can be at the mercy if India were to launch a swarm of drones like they did. If India had sent 1,000 drones and 1,000 missiles, I think that would have devastated Pakistani air bases, etc. So yes, Rohit, you're right. That shows that whether if it was because nobody's talking about much except Indians, no one else is talking about the failure of Chinese defensive technology because everybody's so focused on JC-10 and PL-15 and the alleged sinking of one of the Rafales. Mirza Yamin Ahmed, good morning from Riyadh. Good morning to you, Mirza. Uh, so, Baldev Patel, any confirmation on jets of Pakistani down by? No, there is no confirmation. India obviously cannot provide material evidence because none of the fighters, neither Indian Air Force crossed into the Pakistani airspace, nor the Pakistanis crossed into the Indian airspace. So, if those planes have crashed, then they would have crashed inside Pakistan. And since nobody has shared, like for example, everyone sees one of those photographs, right, which fell on the Indian side near the school. So people have taken photographs, media people have taken photographs and shown it everywhere. There's nothing like that coming out from Pakistan at the moment. So we will see if some intelligence agencies from the US who have been observing this with satellites can confirm or deny if any planes were shot down. Uh, yes, ASFD. None of the Indian targets were hurt. India's defense was exemplary. That's why people are talking a lot about S-400 and the Akash air defense system. So the Indian air defense system worked very well, but it worked very well against the drones and the missiles that the Pakistani used. Uh, India's I don't know which drones Pakistan use, whether the drones, the top notch, the Bayrak drones that uh, uh, Turkey makes or not, but the quality of the drones that Pakistan used was no good. There was no penetration from their missiles. Most of the civilian deaths that took place, now the number is 18 on the Indian side. The total casualties, not casualties, fatalities. Casualties means if you get injured, also it's called a casualty. Fatality means you are dead. So 49 people died total, 26 in Pahalgam, and then 18 civilians on the line of control firing, and then 5 Indian soldiers, according to the Indian government, have died in the fights over LOC, etc. So overall, 49 people died on the Indian side, and those people died because of mortar fire over LOC mostly. Uh, Biswas, the main question, why DGMO of Pakistan call India's DGMO to stop ceasefire? Please explain. I think they wanted to stop the fight because they were hammered. They got 6 of their airfields damaged. They realized that if it continued anymore, they would. I mean, they saw India has the ability to cause damage to them. And so they probably pleaded. But the question is, it, who called whom first? Was it that at the behest of the of the U.S. government, after Marco Rubio spoke with Jaishankar and and also with Shehbaz Sharif, and after J.D. Vance spoke with Modi and with Asim Munir, uh, did the DGMO of Pakistan call after that or before that? That is the question. And those things will take a long time for us to figure it out exactly as to what happened. Uh, Santosh Chowdhury, US is going to be more active vis-a-vis Iran and Abrahamic Accords, or if Pakistan is needed, and China. I don't know.
The US did not push the Abrahamic Accords while it was in the Middle East. It has taken commitments of close to $1.8 trillion worth of investments from Saudi Arabia and Qatar alone. So it's not going to do anything against the wishes of this country. And Trump doesn't want a war with Iran either. It's up to the Iranians. They can get a deal with the Trump administration if they are not too stubborn on most issues. So Pakistan is irrelevant. Pakistan was irrelevant to the Abrahamic Accords in 2019-20 when Trump's got them signed. And I don't think that the Arab countries or even the Iranians will even consult with Pakistan over their negotiations with the US. Pakistan is not that important. Yeah. Uh, Anup Singh, hi Mr. Khan, good to see you again. Thank you very much. Uh, Thank you for waiting. Nishant, will there be a quad meeting? Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. Yes, it is still scheduled. It all depends on what happens in if India and the US are close to signing a deal in September or before September. Then Trump might come to India for the quad. But if there's something going on with the reciprocal tariffs, there are lots of he's facing a lot of defeats at home. His budget proposal was stopped by Republicans in the House. The courts are stopping many of his executive orders. So if he gets focused a lot internally, he may not be able to come to India in September. It also depends on what happens with this ceasefire kind of thing. If he feels that he has been insulted by Narendra Modi, who did not thank him, did not acknowledge his role, then I think Trump will respond in a similar way. Next question: you think India also put tariffs on China to punish them? Is another war inevitable with Pakistan? They will attack soon on India as terrorists. So the thing with India hasn't stopped. There's no ceasefire. India has just paused Operation Sindhu. So as far as India is concerned, this could start again. So India has said that if there's any other activity, any other terrorist attack in India, which India feels has Pakistan has a role in it, then the new normal is India will attack the same way as it did with Operation Sindoor. It's not going to go back to Balakot or even before that. So this is the new normal. So Pakistan should expect much serious attacks from India on its airfields and its military installations if there is a terrorist attack in India. On the other hand, there are people who argue that there will be more attacks in India because the ceasefire over line of control is over. And so Pakistan may be motivated to push India a bit more in the Kashmir region. And so we really don't know whether that is going to happen or not. But you can clearly say that the relationships are bad. I don't think India is going to impose any tariffs on China at the moment because, see, India wants to become a manufacturing giant. But so far, whatever manufacturing it is doing, the essential ingredients, whether it is pharmaceuticals or whether it is electronics, everything is coming from China. So even with the iPhones, India is not making the iPhones. India is just assembling and packaging the iPhones. A lot of the iPhones are being made other places, including in Taiwan and China. So far, 80% of the phones are still being made in China and only 20% in India. So if India wants to have a manufacturing base, it has to be able to import not just ingredients for China, but India has also, Nick, India has also made it easy for Chinese workers to come and work in India. So visa process has been eased of about 5 6 months now. I think it was in October that India removed restrictions on Chinese workers coming because these companies which are moving their manufacturing from China to India are not finding skilled workers in India. So they're bringing the workers from China, especially the Chinese companies. India wants Chinese investments. India wants Chinese supplies, even for the pharmaceuticals that India is exporting. India wants to become the pharmacy of the world. But the basic ingredients, it's like saying you want to make rotis and sell rotis. So the atta is coming from China. Uh, so without getting the atta from China, how are you going to make the roti? So that is the challenge for India So I think India will continue to have good relations with China economically uh, in the near future. Otherwise, uh, because there would have been some signs, and especially until the free trade agreement with the US is not resolved. On the other hand, US, if it establishes with China better relations economically, because already now the tariffs have gone from 145 to 30 and 125 to 10. If they go down further, then companies are not going to uproot their manufacturing facilities in China and move them to India. So this thing is in churn, as Dr. Jaishankar likes to say. It's going to be in a flux for some time. Praveen Kumar, I believe India Pakistan tension is another opportunity for global arms. Oh, of course, of course. China is going to not only use Pakistan to test weapons, etc., but is also going to sell those weapons to Pakistan. Already, I think there is talk of Pakistan buying more jet fighters from China. So, yes, China is going to sell not just to Pakistan, because so far, China is like after the uh, US, Russia, then I think China is the third biggest. And France, I think China is the fourth biggest exporter of weapons. But 80% of China's exports go to Pakistan and Bangladesh only. So it doesn't have many clients internationally for its weapons. But now, after the performance that they gave in this war, I think that lots and lots of countries are going to buy Chinese weapons. For example, Indonesians are already thinking of canceling their Rafale order and ordering JC-10s. So for China, that was a bit beneficial, and India might actually think of going for F-35s if indeed two Rafales have crashed or one Rafale. Then I don't know. Indian government could come under pressure to have a fifth generation fighter, and they haven't got the F414 engine. If you notice, Tejas did not fight in this war at all. Tejas 1. So Tejas 2 is not going to happen without the American jet engines. And so it is possible that India might buy a new fighter jet, more weapons, definitely. So, yes, this war is going to be a marketing bonanza for, unfortunately, the very two countries that we are talking about today, China and the US. Chaudhry, we should have a meet and greet in Delaware. Definitely, Chaudhry Saab. Nishant Chaudhry, sure. Definitely. Hello, Salam Khan Saab from Jeddah. Love your shows, very informative and to the point. Thank you very much. And then Praveen Das, do you think any long term shift in Pakistan's politics? So, this is a very good question. The Pakistanis are saying that they are not supporting terrorism as much as they used to in the past. So they are saying, yes, we had a bad history in the past, but we are not supporting terrorism. We are not supporting Lashkar e Taiba. We are not supporting Jaish e Mohammed anymore. That's why we were removed from the FATF grey list. So, so the world has already confirmed that the Pakistanis. Najam Sethi did an interview with Karan Thapar. You should see that interview in which he made it very clear that yes, we did these things in the past. We are not doing this. In fact, we are the biggest victims of terrorism because of TTP and the Taliban. They are killing more Pakistanis, and we have realized the error of our ways. So we are not supporting terrorism anymore. What we used to do in the past, but we are not. But then they can't explain why Hafiz al Saeed is not in jail, why Pakistani military is providing him with security, and so on and so forth. So there is an inconsistency in what Pakistan is trying to say. Thank you, Nick. Khurshid Iqbal, hello, Dr. Khan, hello, Khurshid. Mandal, 95% raw materials of pharmaceutical production in India. Earlier import karta tha, but I don't know, yaar. All this is just talk. Show me the data. Uh, uh, 95% this and that. No, it's very well known that a lot of ingredients for both pharmaceuticals as well as semiconductors are being imported. So, Nick Sodi, how Pakistan getting money from? Uh, See, people don't understand this, Nick. Let me explain this to you. People think that the Pakistani economy is crashing completely yes, it has 30% inflation. That is a problem. And the fact that it doesn't have dollars, which means it's not exporting as much as it is importing. So all this trouble that it has with the IMF is not about not having money. It's about not having dollars. So let us say that I'm making 10 lakh rupees per month, but I owe you $100. But I don't have dollars in my pocket. And now I have to give you $100. If I don't give you $100, next month I'll have to give you $220. $100 per month plus extra interest. And so if I can't give you $220 next month, then the month after that, I'll have to give you $330. So I might be making lakhs of rupees, but I don't have dollars. So where do I go and get these dollars? From the IMF. So, so in many ways, IMF is essentially a current account adjuster. That is what it is. And so Pakistan has a lot of debt which it's not able to pay, especially to China, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and that. But they have domestic money, so they're able to pay salaries in rupees. Uh, so the question is, how are they importing stuff from China? And that is probably the loans that China is giving to Pakistan. So I think Indians have underestimated Pakistan too much. And that showed in the surprise that they got when Pakistan fought back. Uh, so I think there has to be a more realistic assessment of where Pakistan's economy is. And there's a lot of black market, a lot of informal economic activities. For example, there's a lot of oil smuggling going on between Iran and Pakistan, which does not show up in formal economics analysis. What would be Taliban's thinking after this Sindoor operation, Rohit? Apparently, not only did Dr. Jaishankar talk with Pakistani Foreign Minister Muttaqi, but also during the discussions, during the war, actually, the Afghan military chief made a secret visit to India, which is now come out. So I think there must have been a lot more intelligence cooperation from Afghanistan to India. So I think that India had a true friend in this war, and that is the Taliban. It's quite ironic. Uh, oh yes, Rohit, that's a very good question. Yes, I agree with you. It is a failure of Indian diplomacy that they feel the need to send out such a big delegation to make their point, because they realized that they had not convinced the world of their point of view. They have not persuaded the world that they are victims of terrorism for decades, etc. And so the world is not echoing India's point of view. Uh, ASFD, Tejas has strong capability for intercept and quick reaction defense, good for point defense mission, but limited by range and payload compared to larger strike. So I don't know, what is it for then? If everybody is going to fly uh, planes of that quality, what is the point of having Tejas? Why do we need validation from the West? Because you need money from the West, you need investments from the West, you need Western markets. You send literally millions of Indians to the West to study, to work. Millions of Indians want to migrate to the West. Everything is about the West. Without Western investments, what is India going to do? Without Western markets, what is India going to do? Why is India so desperate for free trade agreements with Europe and with the US and with Canada? So India can turn to itself and see what happens. India's IT industry will collapse without US markets. People don't realize India's exports to the US is only $80 billion, but those are manufacturing exports. India's service exports, which is IT based exports to the US, is more than $200 billion. So India is exporting about $300 billion to the US, way more than it does to China, if you add services as well as goods. When people say that India US trade is $130 billion, they're only talking about goods, things that are made. But when you talk about services like software development, uh, outsourcing business like telephones, answering the phones, and all these are also services which are being exported. India's total exports of services is about 300 plus billion dollars, of which 70%, which would be $210 billion, is to the US. So the US depends heavily on the Western market. Every free trade agreement that India is negotiating, it is literally asking for visas. UK was not asking for visas to India, but India is asking it. It got 1,800 visas for cheaper labor. Why in India's huge market is not enough to garner Western support? India's India's consumer market is growing at the rate of 4%, and India's per capita income is $2,800. Very few Indians have the money to buy expensive Western things. So yes, how many of you can buy a Mercedes for 50,000 US dollars? So somebody made this argument that the top 10% of India is like first world and the 90%. Like Narendra Modi brags so proudly that 80 crore people get free ration. So you have 80 crore out of 140 crore who will starve if the government doesn't give them food. So you have to figure out as to India is composed of one small first world quality life, maybe 50 million people who live like Western countries. They have the money to buy Western alcohol, Western wine, Western cars. So you see BMWs and Mercedeses, and now Tesla is also coming to India. But the market is not that big at the moment. It's not like 80 crore Indians are rich and influential. The US is still buying 40% of everything that is made in the world, and we are such a small population. All right, this is the last question. Uh, yes, Bharat, I didn't know that. Yeah. So, when you should demand the country to reduce its tariffs. That's what Trump is trying to do. And I think India reduced the tariffs on luxury cars from 150% to 70%. And I think it'll go down more. Uh, uh, Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. If you have not subscribed to Conversation, please do subscribe to Conversations. Like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'll see you again probably tomorrow. So I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.